I think I could say this about any creative. You are doing something that is crazy. I think a creative is built from a different frequency from most of the world, where a lot of times we can be perceived as black sheeps, but then yet we're the change makers, right?
You are always attracting energy into your life. The question is, what can you be mindful about attracting? I'm Shannon Bills, mindset mentor, energy healer, and intuitive reader. And today, we're having mindfulness for breakfast.
I have a couple different thoughts running through my mind right now, and I'm like, you know what? Get that camera out, get that mic on. I'm just going to ramble because these are where all my thoughts are at. I have a couple of different stories that are coming up, and I'm like, we will form a message together and we will form a breakfast item together. A lot of times that is a method to my madness. I will show up to a group call or a call with a one-on-one student not knowing what we're going to talk about that day, but it always ends up coming together. I feel like higher self always leads the way on that thing. So my first thought is I have been thinking about how you can't please everybody. I just got some fresh summer highlights, which I'm still getting used to be honest. I think like it looks beautiful. My sister-in-law, she's a hairstylist. She always does my hair. But for the last year and a half, I haven't had any highlights, and I've been kind of used to that darker hair, and it kind of felt like more me. But to give this example of you can't please everybody, I have some friends that are like, I love your hair when it's really blonde. I have some friends that are like, I love your natural hair, including my husband, who's like, I love your natural hair. I have some friends that are like, I love when you had your really short hair, to my chin. What is that, a bob? Bob? I think that's Bob. And I have some friends that are like, I just love your longer hair. And it is frustrating because I think we like to turn to our closest friends and family for advice that we sometimes aren't fully sold on ourselves, where we're like, ooh, what do you think? Should I do the blonde? Should I go a little bit darker? Should I cut it? Should I leave it long? But then it feels like too many cooks in a kitchen. And I remember I'm thinking about past relationships or past guys that I was seeing in my high school days, college days, and how some guys would be like, I love when you have longer nails. I love when you have shorter nails. I love the short hair. I love the long hair. And I remember certain guys would like this certain type of sport. Other guys would like another certain type of sport. One guy would be really into like punk rock music. Another guy would really be into rap. And I think younger me was this chameleon that always would contort herself into whatever way makes the guy like her most. I remember one guy, he was like big into baseball. So I was like, I'm going to memorize all the baseball teams. I'm going to get really into baseball. One of my exes was a big hockey fan. You get the point. Anyways, here I am many years later and still sometimes playing that game of what do I like versus what do other people like and what is the truth. This is now a nice reminder to go, I want to fully always ask for what I want, and I need to like not let other people's opinions cloud the things that I like. So that's just a thought in my mind, which maybe I've talked about in here, maybe I haven't, of just like, we are on this journey of understanding ourselves and understanding our values and understanding our wants and understanding our needs and our desires. And the more you can step into owning what is yours versus seeking that advice from somebody else, the more we're stepped into our power. And right before I was getting my hair done, I was on a call with one of my absolute favorite humans ever. I was telling her, oh yeah, I'm getting my hair done after this. And she's like, oh my God, I love when it's like really blonde. And I totally let that get into my head. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what? I am going to go a little bit blonder than I wanted. And now I'm looking at myself with all that blonde and I'm like, yeah, this is a lesson in sitting in, trusting in what I like versus what other people like. And it's always going to be different, right? So that law of polarity, let me tie in a little message with this. I'm sure I've talked about law of polarity. It is one of the main universal laws, energetic principles. And law of polarity is that there is polar opposites existing at all times. There's rich, there's poor, there's kind, there's mean, there's people that love Taylor Swift, there's people that hate Taylor Swift, there's people that love a president, there are people that despise a president, right? It's just always going to exist. And there's always going to be people that like me with blonder hair, and there's going to be people that like me with darker hair, and there's going to be people that wish I had my short hair, and there's going to be people that wish I had my long hair, and there's also going to be people that don't care about me, and there's also going to be people that do care about me. And the moral of the story, both can exist, both can be true, but what matters is your truth. What matters is my truth. And so just remember that in all of your decision making going forward. You are not going to be able to please everybody. In fact, that is an energetic principle. It is a universal truth. You're not going to be for everybody, right? So that breakfast item and story is just really root to who you are, what you're wanting, and don't let anybody else's opinions get in the way of that. So that's story number one. Story number two is I just got back from a lunch with one of my friends in the industry. She is a commercial agent, and she has gotten into spirituality. Is that the right way to say that? I guess just has been exploring more of her spiritual side. And I think it's safe to say that I was one of the people that started to expand her mind in that way. And we were chatting today, and she was like, and I know she was saying it in like the kindest, sweetest way possible. She was like, you know, like, I know sometimes this could feel a little like out there and woo-woo and hard to believe, but I feel like I'm finally understanding it now. But not to say that like I didn't understand it when you were explaining it to me, Shannon, but I feel like it's just finally clicking for me now, because I feel like there's only a few people I could talk about spiritual things with, and otherwise people think I'm crazy. And I was thinking about that. That was like one of the last things we were talking about before we both got in our cars and left. And I just was sitting this whole way home, and this truthfully was 15 minutes ago. I was sitting with this idea this whole way home of like, sure, it's crazy, but at the end of the day, isn't any new concept, new idea, off the beaten path, like the non-normal way of thinking, being, doing, isn't that always going to be crazy? And think of how many people out there were perceived as crazy for their ideas. And to give you an example of what we were talking about, I believe in reincarnation, and I believe in spirit guides, and I believe in our energy, our soul just moving from lifetime to lifetime into different person, place, things. And it's just my belief. I never want to come off self-righteous, because you should absolutely root to and believe in whatever the heck you want to believe in. But that's just something that has really expanded my faith, my spirituality, and it's allowed me to go to really beautiful places in meditation and doing past life regressions on myself, and also facilitating them and allowing other people to have those experiences. And maybe I'll dive a little bit deeper into that in another podcast. But that was what I was talking about with my friend today. And this is what is now clicking for her, because I also, when people are like, are you religious? I'm not religious. Did I grow up going to Sunday school every Sunday? Yes. Do I believe in God? Yes. Do I believe in Jesus? Yes. And do I feel them and connect to them? Yes. That's about as far as I go with those beliefs that I'm letting you in on, because I don't know if I really publicize that. But That being said, I also like to expand upon all of my energetic guides, whether that is God, whether that is higher self, whether that is my grandma that passed, my nana that passed, my papa that passed, my friends that have passed away, whether that is a spirit guide. Like, I feel and believe that we have this whole team. We have this whole team of energetic guides that are just ready to step in and help ease whatever you're going through at any point in time. And the reason I feel so strongly about them is because I have felt all those different energies. When I'm meditating, each person's energy is so different. And it's honestly just been so beautiful to receive and tap into. And what I always tell people is there's zero negatives. There are zero negatives to this work, to expanding your spiritual beliefs, to connecting to something bigger than you. There are zero negatives. So why not explore it? And if it works for you, amazing. And if it doesn't, cool, no worries. Not my job to push that on you. I want you to practice discernment and do what resonates with you, right? All that being said, she got me thinking in the car because she was like, wow, this is all actually really clicking right now where she's at in her life. But maybe when we had this conversation, let's say a year ago or a year and a half ago, she thought it was cool, but it maybe wasn't clicking as much. And maybe she was perceiving me as a little bit of crazy because these concepts aren't the norm, right? They're not the most talked about thing. And if they are talked about, it's usually in private. And I understand where that comes from. I think that is also just like generationally has become more and more accepted in conversations with people. I don't know why I feel like my grandma, I called her my Mima. I feel like she's literally with me right now and coming through. And my grandma was very intuitive and very psychic, and she died when I was in 4th grade. So I don't have a gazillion stories that I remember, but there are a handful of stories of messages she would share where she would have a dream and know that her son, my uncle, was sick when he was in, I don't remember which war it was, but she knew he was sick before she even got a call from Army. She would have psychic dreams and she would like feel her dad that passed away, and she would be looking for something and then just like talk to her dad, and then the thing would appear. Like she had so many magical stories like that. And when she comes through to me, she kind of says the same message. And this is what I feel so heavily with her with me right now is like, she couldn't be vocal about that back then. She would be perceived as something crazy. And I feel like back in the day, there were more repercussions for that. Where in this day and age, I think more and more people are talking about it and getting more connected to who they are on a spiritual level. Anyways, all that being said, going off my theme of being perceived as crazy, because that's actually why I wanted to get on the podcast today. I think we have to get rid of this fear of coming off as crazy. I feel that anything that is new and foreign to somebody is gonna feel a little bit crazy. But then again, think of how many persons, places, things, ideas started as something that was perceived as crazy. My mind goes to Steve Jobs. My mind goes to artists like making big fashion statements like Lady Gaga. I'm remembering like the meat dress. Like that's pretty crazy, right? But people still talk about it. I'm sure Walt Disney was probably perceived as crazy. Like I'm sure there are a gazillion different examples of people that were perceived as crazy and they didn't care. They didn't let that stop them from trusting their vision and following their unique North Star. And so I think the last thing that I want to talk about here is let's honor the way that you are different, and let's honor the different crazy things that actually expand you. And maybe you're meant to follow those things, because who's to say that like my idea of tapping into more of my spiritual techniques isn't the next best thing that opens up all artists of the world and all creatives of the world. And I am known for allowing people to get deeper in their faith and within themselves and show up unapologetically them. And that makes them stronger actors, and that becomes a new acting technique. I don't know, right? I'm rambling here, but all because of my way of thinking, being, doing. I shouldn't shy away from that. And this is by no means the friend that I was seeing today. I don't want her to think, if she's listening, like I was taking it as a bad thing. I was like, ooh, like she thought that was crazy at one point, and now she's fully on board with it and everything's clicking for her. I think maybe I need to step into more ways of thinking, being, doing that come off as crazy, but don't feel crazy to me. It feels so unique and yet right and correct to my energetic blueprint. And I think my second breakfast item in tying up the story is, let's follow what that crazy is for you. And no, look, crazy is a big umbrella of things. I think what I'm trying to get at in terms of crazy is like, what feels correct to you? What feels correct to how you operate and the stories that you tell and the values you hold and the messages you want to share? And how are they so different from everybody? And yet how are they so correct for you? I want you to take a second to honor that creative heart, because I think I could say this about any creative. You are doing something that is crazy. You are going after something that is not the standard 9-to-5 job, that not everybody can see this vision, but you can feel it. And that is so powerful. You are one of one. I think a creative is built from a different frequency from most of the world, where a lot of times we can be perceived as black sheeps of the family of the world, but then yet we're the change makers, right? We are not the trend, we're the trend setters. So all this to say, you are different. It is safe for you to be different. It is part of your creative frequency. That's a requirement from your higher self. That uniqueness is your golden ticket. And I want you to wear that crazy badge of honor proudly. And the last thing I want to say is, who knows what that crazy idea or that crazy conversation or that crazy message or that crazy trend that you set, who knows who that's going to have an impact on. And that is so exciting, right? Like, think of all the people that you were going to inspire. Yeah, just step boldly into that uniqueness. I have to hop to another session that is starting in 2 minutes, but I just wanted to get these thoughts off my chest. This does feel a little bit like a very public diary to me. So let me know how all of this goes, guys. I'll talk to you soon.